Did you freeze? Ah,
I'm just let's see, trying that. I'm going to stop that now. I'm going to do right. Because if I don't do that, we're going to forget, and then it's like, oh boy, never did it. So Pete, this is great. It's great to see you again.
yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you.
So I got a couple of other people to let in. So letting them in right now. So I'll try to keep that in mind. But I have to look over. And guys, forgive me. I'm not so tech savvy. So so my intention is, let's see, we just want to have a good discussion tonight, have some fun, talk about some, let's see, spooky things as it is spooky season.
Oh yeah, my favorite season, the most wonderful time of the year.
my favorite season too, honestly, is like, I love this time of year. So Pete, I guess we can get started. So everyone, thank you so very much for joining us. And just so you know, to spread the word around, I am recording this. So anybody, if anybody, missed it, this will be recorded and put on my YouTube page, which if I remember at the end of the night, I'll put a link to that. If everybody can spread the word out, this will be on YouTube. So if they missed it tonight, there's still a chance. And there's still people signing in. I guess give me a second, Pete. There's still people coming in.
Do your thing. I'm here all night.
Let's see. Let's just minimize that. Okay, so people are still coming in. I'll take care of that as we go along. I guess they were waiting until like a couple minutes after.
Oh yeah.
In case we were late.
7 o'clock was the go time, so now folks are piling in, and we're
which was always the possibility. I could have been running late. Okay, so I'll keep that in mind. So we did this once before, so I believe it was April, which was interestingly that we're doing this about 6 months later. I can't also believe that it's October, not April, Pete.
Yeah, well, as far as Walmart's concerned, it's already December.
That is true. I'm not quite happy about that. I like let's deal with the season that we're currently in, but whatever.
Oh, they completely bypassed Thanksgiving too. They said, okay, Halloween and now Christmas. Good luck, everybody.
Yeah.
We're just time traveling. We're all time traveling.
All right, so I'll introduce us. So my name is Joseph Dyro, and I'm a psychic medium on Long Island, New York. And with me tonight is author Peter Hammarberg, who has written a bunch of wonderful novels. If any of you ever get a chance to catch him, you are at a couple of stores, Pete. I know you're on Amazon, but you are at a couple of, I think, local stores.
Yeah, I am. I've been lucky enough to be in a couple of small-time town shops, which is really cool because they really try to do their best to support their local authors, I should say. But like anything else, you got to get out there and push it and hope that it falls into the right hands.
Mm-hmm. Yes, falls into the right hands. And you know what? I'm just going to reach across because I got one of your books with me. Let's see. I have Antilla, which was a wonderful novel.
What? Me too. Wow.
You got a copy too?
We're twins. Awesome. Look at this.
But you've written also like Graven Frost, which I'm kind of hoping you do a sequel at some point. Yes, there we go, guys. So if you're interested in some of Pete's books, I quite enjoyed them. And,
well, thank you.
And I really hope, especially in being festive with the season, that you do write more about Graven Frost or something similar.
Well, as a matter of fact, I did. The sequel is long in coming, obviously, and it's because it's been going through a lot of different manifestations. Sometimes I want to go in one direction and then the book takes me in a completely different direction. But no, I want to have a message in this one. But the message is I should just let the book happen and not be afraid of letting it happen. And that's my big thing is fear. I'm always controlled by the fear of, oh no, what if it stinks? But if nobody reads it, no one's going to know if it stinks.
That is true. But I liked your stuff, so put out more.
Well, I will. And I do have a collection of short stories coming out soon. Illustrated by the amazing Justin Weingartner, some of his art is down here. He's awesome, very talented. And some of the short stories do actually involve Graven Frost, the town. So I'm very excited about that. And you could find my stuff on my website, hammerblog.com. If you want to not wait for any kind of physical book, you could just pop over there and have yourself a nice scroll.
But your stuff is also available on Amazon?
Yes, it is. Yep, those two books are available on Amazon, Antilla and Graven Frost. So
awesome.
Shameless plug over.
Yes, plug over. So we're here to talk about tonight's, some interesting, spooky themed storytelling, and just to bounce back and forth a bit as we've done once before about Pete and I's experiences with some of the supernatural. And for those of you who are tuning in, it's like, yes, like him and I especially had some interesting supernatural experiences going on. And we're gonna have a focus tonight about shadow people. And if you wanted to say something, Pete, I didn't want to step on you because I had a couple things to go on about that.
By all means, it's your show.
All right, it's my show. That sounds so weird.
Get used to it.
Get used to it. Thanks. But just to talk about, because it is spooky season and just some spooky encounters that we've both had, and I've had plenty. I know in my experience. I mean, especially as a psychic at a medium, going all the places that I get to go and experiencing the things that I get to see, especially since I do house clearings and building, clear out businesses and buildings, I encounter a lot of stuff. But sometimes I just encounter stuff in my everyday life, which is not always so pleasant. So part of what I'd like to plug tonight is also, if any of you out there encounter some things as we're going to describe, like I'd like to give you some tools on what to do with it. How to protect yourself is the easiest way I can explain it, is to put yourself in the light, protect yourself from any lower vibrations that may come about around you. Because let's see, I do have I'll start with, I guess, storytelling, if you don't mind, Pete.
That's fine with me. I just wanted to let everybody know about with Joseph saying about light work and making yourself protected from lower vibrations. It's not as easy as it sounds, but it is easier than it seems. And what I mean by that is when you're in the middle of an experience, it's scary. And obviously it's startling. And that's what they want. They want to feed off that fear. But if you listen to Joseph and practice raising your vibrations, practice raising your awareness and protection, it'll get easier. And then this way, when something happens, you're like, oh, hey, and you just keep on about your day, making dinner or whatever the case may be. So it's not impossible, but yes, when you're scared, the last thing you want to think about is, no, I'm fine, thank you. You're just like, I'm gonna get out of this basement. Bye-bye. The laundry's gonna wait.
I have had those moments where I'm like, oh yeah, you're here, I'm here, leave me alone. And I mean, I built that up over time. Not to say that I'm never not like, oh my God, what's over there kind of a thought, because that does still happen once in a while.
Oh,
But
sure.
mostly I'm pretty cool. Pretty cool. Okay, you're there, I'm here, I've learned the tools I need to learn, and I'm pretty comfortable in all of it. So not that I expect somebody brand new to just jump into it and be like, okay, this all works. You really have to wrap your mind around what I'm going to explain to you. But I'll try my best. If anybody has questions, you're welcome to ask. Because I really want to just, it's not just, it's for the entertainment value of this, but it's also, I really desire to help people not be afraid and just know where they stand and how much power they have over any of these kind of situations.
Absolutely.
So I had one story I really
Sure.
I wanted to tell is walking through walking through the woods. And I live on Long Island, so it's not really woods anywhere around here. It's really just parks. But the one thing about Long Island is that we have some history.
Oh yeah, spooky history.
Walking through the parks, and this particular area was, I'll call it a park, but it was near it's through an old asylum that exists out in Brentwood. And places like that are creepy to begin with, because there's a bunch of abandoned buildings all around there, and it's also odd because apparently you can bypass the highways by driving through. So every so often there is a car that drives through. But I happened to be there it wasn't night just yet, it was close to night. But just being on the grounds, it used to freak me out. I've gotten so much better about it because every so often I do drive through the area. But to be in a place like that where there was a lot of things going on in the past, there's a lot of lower vibration,
Oh
negativity,
yeah.
and it's like one of those times where I forget why I had to stop my car, and I stopped for a moment, and the second I stopped, because this is why, the second I stopped, it caught me off guard. Immediately a knock on my window, and I look, and there's nothing there. And so I'm like, all right, that was odd, but it's not completely out of my realm of weirdness because I'm used to kind of stuff like that going on. But then another knock on my back window. And it's like, all right, I turn around, nothing there. So that at that point, I'm like, all right, somebody's screwing with me, like in spirit, because they tend to do that. And I'm already a little heightened in awareness because I'm where I'm at. I'm in a park. It used to be an asylum. There's a lot of abandoned buildings. The setting is perfect. And again, this isn't night yet. It's still dusk driving through. I must have been on my way. I was on my way to go somewhere, and I needed to stop and just, like, I guess, look at my phone or something. And I'm like, all right, if something's around me, here's this moment where I'm going to ground and shield myself. So there's a tool that I've learned from my teacher where you use your imagination, you put yourself in a column of white light, and you imagine that light all around you, and you do a string of light from the heavens through your body down to the center of the earth, and just hold yourself like that. And once I did that, it's like I got a reaction from what was ever outside, because the banging stopped on my car, but then there must have been like trash or something, because that immediately flew across the car. And it's like whoever was outside did not like the fact that I was doing this. And although, once I've done this, I'm now protected. My car is protected. I can't be touched. But now it's just like, that was the freaky thing. It's like, oh, that's like the wind wasn't blowing, because I can be a logical person. And it's just like, well, like, where's the logical reason why this is going on? But the fact that knock on my glass window, knock on the back window, someone was outside wanting to bother me on some level, and here they go messing with me as I was doing this. But for somebody else, like, this could be a creepy experience, because knock on the window, knock on the back window, and now suddenly trash is like doing wobbly things. And
Well, I hope that you had your windows closed and your door locked, because that's number one when you're visiting an abandoned insane asylum, kids.
yes,
We want to make sure that nobody's going to carjack you.
oh yes, the doors were locked, and everything was closed. It was cold, so the windows were definitely up, and the doors were definitely locked. But it's just like, that was just the weirdness about being in such a location, because places like that hold a lot of energy.
Oh,
Because
sure. And most of it's negative.
yes, because of the events that went on as a hospital, just overall, and the type of, and the people who were there for certain reasons, and landscapes and like the general area tends to hold on to that kind of energy. So it doesn't even matter. I'll say I would love to go there and do a massive clearing if if someone would let me in and do such a thing, but I would have to research what exactly would I do to clear out a massive area, because this is like a giant park. Many buildings.
Was it Kings Park?
No, this was Pilgrim State.
They turned Pilgrim State into a parkety park.
Well, I call it a park because how else, it doesn't, like, the hospital still, part of the hospital is still operating, but other
It's still
parts,
active, yeah.
you just drive through, could walk through, and so to me it's like it's pretty much a park.
No, because when the way you were describing it, I knew it was Pilgrim, but when you started talking about park, I was thinking Kings Park, because that's an actual place you could go and have a picnic and hang out and not get too close to the fenced-in buildings, or the police will magically appear, which has happened to me a couple of times. I wasn't doing anything.
Honestly, I've watched it be the devil's advocate and walk through Kings Park, but once I did go on a walk, because you can walk during the day, and every time I went near a certain building, I heard my guides in my head said, don't go in there, and I was like, don't even attempt it. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to do it, not today, because you're telling me no. And they said, don't go in there. So I didn't go in there at that time.
And if you don't think you have guides guiding you, everyone, it's called your gut intuition. You know what I mean? Like, if you call it what you want, but when that thing in the back of your head goes, you do like breathing, right? You do like not dying horribly, right? Yeah, maybe just keep walking. Yeah, listen to your gut. Your gut knows. The intuition is a powerful tool that we often neglect or forget because we're too busy scrolling on our screens.
I do suggest, like, if anyone can use their imagination in the moment, I do understand if we're scared, like, you're not really thinking about, oh yeah, I got to do this thing that Joseph said. But I would say try your best. At least I'll say intend to put yourself in light. If you can't quite imagine everything I just described before, just at least, if you can, for a second in your mind, imagine yourself surrounded in light. That's always a great start, because you put there, anything lower vibration can't touch you. They might throw things in front of you, but they can't touch you.
Yeah, they're trying to distract you, scare you, drop your guard.
So that's just a nice, I think, a quick little opener story to what we wanted to talk about tonight, because we did want to do a focus.
An interesting part to carry on with what you're saying about how ground and environment can be saturated by the goings on or the people who visit, especially Long Island. I don't know how many people tonight are from Long Island, but I'm originally from there as well. I managed to escape, but prior to that,
Yes,
I've done
Pete's
a
out
lot
of
of
state, guys.
I did a lot of spelunking around our that magical floating rock, and it's storied super history with a lot of spooky business, not just supernatural. I mean, you've got the Amityville Horror a couple of blocks away, and then you have the Montauk Project out in Montauk, where they did all sorts of sci-fi stuff that most people think are complete bollocks, but there are some people who believe. There's been a couple of books written about it, but for every square inch of that place, there's a story, and the ground never forgets. That's what I always say. No matter where you're stepping, someone else has stepped there, and you don't know why they were stepping there, and what were their intentions. You know, some things they're the residue. They last. Hauntings. That's just perfect bit, and that leads to me to another story about old and Long Island. Yeah, I was at a cemetery back in the day. One of those cemeteries, small cemeteries that was just wedged between two streets in Brentwood. And I was with a friend of mine, and I don't know if she might be here. I don't want to just call her out, but we were doing spooky goth stuff in the cemetery, just being spooky goth kids, no big deal.
Yeah,
But
that's what we did in the 80s and the 90s.
that's what it was. You just hung out in the cemetery like a bunch of weirdos, and and it was cool. Well, at the time it was cool. Now it was a little cringe, but mostly still kind of cool. But she and I were talking about obviously world-shattering cosmic events that were shaping the course of our futures, and we look up, and then there's a silhouette, several rows back, full body, dark as night, darker than any shadow. Light did not penetrate, and there was a street light, because remember, there were two streets that sandwiched the cemetery. So there was no contours, no shadow, no shading, no light play, just black, dark. Light did not penetrate this thing. It's like the way I like my coffee and the way I like my beer. And she and I stopped, and we just stared at this thing, and it was staring back at us. And then we started to approach, because why not? If you're being psychotic goth kids, you want to go and see who's spelunking in your graveyard. And as we got close, the thing walked 2 tombstones down and then crouched. So now I'm thinking it's going to be some kind of trap, who knows who's there, what he's doing there. But being young and being young, we walked the rest of the way. And the tombstone that the person crouched down behind, there was nobody there, but the grave itself was fresh. There was actual, like, soft, malleable dirt there. So there was no sign of anyone digging. There was no footprints. There was nothing disturbed, but there was somebody there. Somebody who knew we were there, and we interacted in our own way. But ultimately, they crouched down and vanished. So that was one of the first experiences of, like, just that haunted Long Island residue.
Do you feel it was the person who was there, like buried there?
Well, the way the grave was seemed very indicative of somebody who had just been planted and was not yet quite ready to move on. And was perhaps just standing there going, now what do I do? What am I doing here? Why are you people here? So there might have been some confusion, but they stood stock still until they moved and crouched. There was no waving, like we might have waved. I don't quite remember, but
would have been awesome if you waved and they waved back.
I guess. I mean, then I would have assumed that it was a human. We probably wouldn't have gone anywhere. I don't know. It was one of those weird, like, maybe we shouldn't move closer to the silhouetted figure, but you do those kind of things, like go to an abandoned insane asylum and just drive around. So,
which
spooky.
I have done since then, but because I've gotten a little bit better with myself about such things. But most spirits, I'll say most, hanging around a graveyard, if it's the spirit of a person who recently passed or even years ago, but they tend to just be wandering about. They're not really, I'll say most of the time, they're not really doing anything bad or have no intention of doing anything bad. At least that's what's been described to me. It's just maybe they're a little lost. They need a little help. As you said, they don't know where to go and what to do, and they have no idea what's going on. But every so often, because there are other energies that want to hang around there as well. And it's the easiest way I could describe to anybody, how do you tell the difference, is, oh, you'll feel the difference when it's something that's
Malevolent.
yes, benevolent, malicious, dark. It's like you'll feel that. It's not just, oh, this is nervous and just feels just weird. Like, oh, no, this is something like the first instinct is to run, because we can feel that. We all can feel that difference. It's like, no, this is something to run from. But
there's also something to be said about being in a place you not necessarily should be and seeing somebody. Could be just another knucklehead like us having a good time in a graveyard, or it could be somebody that's malevolent, could be a bad person. We can't just assume that it's a supernatural thing. We always have to protect your necks,
Yes. Makes it quite interesting. So you weren't able to see, like, they presented themselves as just a dark figure?
It was a literal person standing there, and it was just pure black, pure dark. No, there was a street light, no shadow, no light play. There was no distinctive, it was just an outline, almost as if it was someone took a picture and just used a big old magic marker and just shaded this person, and couldn't see anything past him. But he was solid, absolutely solid. Couldn't see anything past him either. So,
and I'll say, and the friend that you were with also saw them?
Yep.
Cool. Because honestly, for me, sometimes it's nice to have someone else experiencing with you. So it's just like, yeah, like I just have a story to tell. Nope, you saw it too.
Yeah. And that's not the first time that's happened to me. There's been a couple of times where, specifically with shadow people, and here's where it gets tricky. There had been a spate of time when at my friend Al's house, which I don't know if anyone who was here for the last chat, Al and I had experienced seeing his grandfather, his deceased grandfather, in full detail. He was shimmering white, but I could see the lapels on his suit. I described him perfectly, never seeing this man before. So that house was pretty much a hotbed of activity, and we used to see a lot of shadow people, and just the darting kind. Darting here and there, corner of the eye gone, all that kind of thing. But we also used to see light, shapes made of light, but they were humanoid shapes made of light. And they too would be darting left and forth, almost as if his house was like a highway or like an intersection where these beings of varying vibrations would appear and go and just go about their business. Maybe they'd shake their vibration a little bit, so you get to see them. But there was one time, there was one standing in a doorway. We were eating in his kitchen, and it was standing in its doorway. And this is a dark entity, by the way, not one of the light ones. And he said, "You see that?" I said, "I see that." And there it was. And as soon as it saw us seeing it, it moved down the stairs. There was a little alcove that went down the stairs to the basement. So that's where it went. So we decided, because geniuses, chase it. Why not? You watch all these ghost hunting shows where they're all going, "We're going to find ourselves a ghost. What was that? Let's run. Oh God." But this was before all that. This was before all that. So we ran towards it, and we got down to the basement, and then suddenly I found myself on my back. I didn't trip. Al watched me do a rotate in the air and then slam down onto my back. Something had flipped me. And I mean, literally just took my feet and said, "Okay, now that's where your head is. Your head is where your feet are. Good luck." And there I was on my back. And Al's like, "You okay?" My neck's all cranked up. I said, "Maybe we should stop chasing this thing." I was okay, thankfully, because at that time I was young and wiry, but you don't go chasing these things, apparently, because it did not want to be chased. No. And he said that he literally saw me flip, not like I tripped and stumbled and then rolled. And it was, I'm vertical, I'm upside down, and then I'm down. So I learned not to chase those things.
No, they can be scary. So we also want to describe what we're talking about. So shadow people is a little different than spirit, I'll say, in most cases. From my perspective, there's two, let's say maybe a couple different types. There's ones that is energies and spirits from our world who like to stay in a lower vibration and present themselves as such. But I want to say, but I don't want people confusing if they see a shadow out of the corner of their eye, because especially a lot of people who are sensitive to energy will see a shadow, because and that's why I say it's a little hard at the beginning to tell the difference, because in the beginning, if you're developing psychic ability or just sensitive to energy, your eye will perceive it as a shadow, because your eye is seeing something that your brain's telling you is not really there. So your brain's just like, I don't know what it is, just make it all shadow. I don't know what it is. But they're like very, very quick, very brief, very like just zoom across the room and that's all it is. But I also tell clients, but how did it make you feel besides just a little nervous? And they tell me, well, I didn't feel anything bad. Well, that's another indication, like it's probably just spirit and your eyes catching it for that split second, and that's it. Because shadow entities, I'll say some of them, I'll say kind of want to be seen, and they stay dark and shadowy, like you just color them with the black magic marker.
Yeah.
And they're not so quick, because they're long enough for you to, like as Pete described, to follow them. What they are, like and another part of this is that they're not quite from our world, and they're peering in and visiting, and have some agendas, and some of them are, they're just interacting in this world. But there's a lot of videos on YouTube where people can look up. Some of them are real, some of them are fake. I'm not here to pinpoint what's real and what's fake with that, but they're here to do their own, like they have their own agenda going on, and they're not always the most pleasant things to watch, but they're here and they're very observant.
And I think they're also feeding off fear.
Yes.
When you see the blur at the corner of your eye, or even like, how many of us here have seen like shadow animals where suddenly something's down at the low, you're like, that was a dog. Wait, I don't have a dog. Huh. And it's gone. The energy is moving. It's in a state of transition. So it's just here. You caught it. Oh, you're perceptive. So, but then there's the ones that linger. And that's what Joseph was saying. And I think that lately,
that's a good way to describe it, Pete. The ones that linger are the ones that they want your attention.
They want your attention, and most of the time, they want your fear. They want your uncertainty, and they want that. They want your terror to eat, in a sense, to gain power. And I know that sounds kind of far-fetched, but how many people have heard of the Hat Man? Or how many people? Oh, you are a Hat Man. Dapper.
Yes.
Or also sleep paralysis. And yes, that is a psychological thing that it's been proven in with sleep studies and science. But across the world, there are very similar stories. There are very similar experiences, and they all involve some kind of shadow person. And lately, I've been seeing them a lot lately, and these are more so than your passerby ones. And it started in the summertime. I mean, if it happened around now, I'd say, okay, it's the veil, it's thinning. We're experiencing, now's the spooky time. So now all things are shaken up. But this is in the summer up until now. And I've been seeing them standing on the stair landing. I've been seeing them just walking past. I've been seeing them in rooms. I hate that. And I think they know I hate that. When you walk past the bedroom and the room is dark and you see a silhouette standing in the backlight of the night coming, of the street light coming in through the window, and there's no lights. So then you go, do I back up? Okay, they're gone. Sometimes it was happening so much, but and little animals running past, which is weird. And it's nice, I guess, they've whatever, but the people, that's been starting to worry me, and part of me thinks, okay, maybe I'm losing my mind. It's possible, under a lot of stress, you start seeing things. That's a psychological thing. You're under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. Your mind starts doing things to you.
That are just opening you up to things that are there that you're not paying attention to otherwise.
It could be, maybe, but it's been happening a lot lately, and it's gotten to the point where I'm actually not startled anymore. When it started happening, I'm like, oh, okay, I know what it is. I could move past it. I'm not like, oh Lord, I got to burn the house down. It's none of that. But it now it's to the point where it's just like, oh hey, what's up? Don't
Well,
bug me.
if they're not really bothering you, or if you don't feel like it's anything really bad, then there's nothing kind of wrong with that. But I was also going to say it's like it's also maybe a good opportunity to sage the house,
We do periodically.
to set up things that we need to set up, so that doesn't happen.
But what does it mean if we sage the house and I'm the one who wants to leave?
Yeah,
That's kind of half a joke and half kind of
it
really
is half a
true,
joke. Like I guess like
because there's times where I just don't feel good and I feel grumpy and I'm like, I don't like the stink of it. I don't like the feel of it. Did
not
you have
saying
to do
that's
that
the
now?
exact cause, but sometimes when there's lower vibrations hanging around, they'll make you feel grumpy as well.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
They like things operating exactly where they are. But just to say for anybody, if you ever feel like something's going on, it wouldn't hurt to sage or walk around Palo Santo. Even mugwort is very good.
That's the place where Harry Potter went.
Oh no, that's
Oh no,
Hollywood.
you said never mind. That's a dumb joke.
Mugwort is a real plant. It's a real herb that you can also burn. It doesn't smell as good as Palo Santo or white sage, but it works just the same. Or you can walk around with a clear quartz crystal and accomplish the same thing. Because I want to keep you guys in mind that you have the power to clear anything out. It doesn't matter. The rule set of the cosmos and our universe is it's your space. Nothing can exist in this space if you don't want it to. But to emphasize how does that work, but when you call something to leave, you also got to stop paying attention to it, because the same thing we were describing earlier, like these entities like will feed on fear. It's also the attention we're giving them. So as much as we give them our attention when they introduce themselves, of course that's how that works. They introduce themselves, now you're paying attention to them, but you got to ignore them after you call them out, call them to leave. You got to ignore that. Sometimes it's easier than others.
I was gonna say that sounds like a tall order, man. Because when that thing is standing there and you're like, "Oh, I'm home alone. Not listening to you. I'm not seeing you." That's rough,
Mhm.
especially if you're not as seasoned as somebody who does this stuff for a living.
Hey, I do this for a living, kind of a thing, and I'm not always prepared. I have a story where I was trying to come home from the city. I was in the city to have fun. It was years ago. It was winter time. Interestingly, that's another story I have. That's also in the winter time because it was cold. But by circumstances, I had to get transfer. I couldn't get a train properly, so I had to transfer in Jamaica. And I was standing in Jamaica Station at 3 o'clock in the morning,
Oh boy.
which weirdly there's nobody there at 3 o'clock in the morning. Because it's like this, I was like, this is Jamaica, not like no one is here. It's like that's what it was. No one was there. I think a little later, one other person happened to walk across the platform, but for a little while for me, because and I know like it's clear in my memory because I know I wasn't sleeping because it was outside waiting in the cold because it was cold. So I'm bundled up in my jacket, and out of the first, it was out of the corner of my eye, I saw a figure. I thought in the distance, and again, this is like a matter of seconds. I'm like, there's a figure there, which think nothing of it because I am standing, in a railroad station. There's work down, could be work down the road. It's the city. Maybe there's a workman coming, like, doing something at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. And so I ignored it for a little while, and went about my business. I had this thing about where I would pace up and down the platform because it's a long platform, so I could travel for a little while. And what caught my attention the second time is that I'm like, I feel weird, and me, like, my spider senses was tingling, and I happened to look, and I'm like, there's that figure, but it's a little closer now, and it's still black. Walking, in front of lights, and it's still black, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. And it's also 3 a.m., so I'm very tired. I think now it's more like probably 3:20, and I'm very tired, waiting for my train to come, which was, I think, not coming for another 10 minutes. But I don't know why I didn't think in the moment to grab and shield. I just remember thinking like, oh, that's not good. Let me go to the other side of the platform to wait and not pay attention. Saying, I didn't see it again. Finally, the train comes. I get on the train, waiting on the train. And I think on the train, I was trying to sleep because I had my headphones on, but I wasn't sleeping. And I clearly remember, because again, I'm by myself because it's now 3:30 or maybe 3:35, 3:40 now on the train from Jamaica Station coming home. And again, it's one of those things where spider sense is tingling. And because I looked up and I could see it in the next car walking towards my car, and it opened the door to the other car. And I'm just like, no, you're not coming in here. And it, what I would perceive it as, looking up at me. And we had like a moment, this might have been only seconds, but we had like that moment of looking at each other, and I'm just like, you're not coming in here. And because I can feel like, it's like I can feel the difference with this thing. It's like, this is not spirit. This is something I don't want in the car. And I said, well, I'm in the car. I technically own it for these circumstances. And said, you're not coming in.
And it literally physically opened the door? Or
Yep. Yeah, the door opened. It
geez,
wasn't my car's door. It was the other car's.
yeah, the next door. Oh, wow. That's a heck of a lot of power. You know, when you think about interactions with these things, it most of the time it starts small. That's how they build their power, using their influence and using your fear. And a rocking chandelier turns into slamming doors turn into all of the drawers bursting open, and then it gets worse from there, shaking beds and such. But for this thing to just straight out physically open a subway door, that's I mean a train door, which is no easy feat for a human.
No, which did freak me out, but I mean, because I'm also a little mad at myself, and I'm like, that would have been the time to ground and shield and do all. But like, again, this is why I tell people, like, I didn't think of it either. It wasn't in my head. I'm just like, I just said, you're not coming in here, and like, because I said, I'm the only one in this car, and you're not doing this right now. And it stopped, and it was doing the little, looking, how like the car, people in cartoons do that, like side look. And it's like, you're not coming in here. And I said, and I do remember being very adamant in my head. It's like, you're not coming in here. What I did end up doing, because again, I don't know, I think because I was tired, I didn't think to ground and shield, which is why I'm like, I kicked myself. It's like, that was the perfect opportunity to do such a thing. I started using my imagination, started hitting it with, like, in my imagination with love, because I've done that before with things that are lower vibration, to start hitting it with as much love as I could possibly throw at it. And it vanished. I didn't like it. So like, cool, that works too. So here's another tool for all of you out there. Send it love. If you don't like what it is, it feels bad, send it love, because two things will
Kill it with kindness.
Yes, kill it with kindness, because one of two things will probably happen. Either it just won't like it and it will go away because you're sending it love, or you'll lighten it up and raise its vibration, so it'll bask in that love and be a better energy. But if it's something that doesn't want it, it will leave, because if you're giving it love, you're not fearing it, obviously, in that moment, you're giving it love. So that's
It's got nothing to work with.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Then it was just weird, because after that, in the next car, someone came in from like into the other car, and I was like, oh, if they only knew what was just right there, like in my head, like, acting in my head. It's like they just missed all of it. They missed all the fun.
That would have scared the crap out of me, actually, if somebody just opened the door. Like, that would have been it for me. But
creepy thing, because like I said, I wish I remembered to ground and shield, and it just didn't occur to me at that time, and I thought of it afterwards, like, oh, I should have done this. But I did the love thing, because I've done that in the past, where, again, if I'm caught that off guard, it's just immediately, I guess it's like attack. Here's love, but it's intentional love, not just throwing something like everything in the kitchen sink at an energy. It's just, no, here, just muster up whatever love I've got going on, send it right out. And I use my imagination, because I find that to be the most effective with working with energy, because your imagination is your energy on, in another plane, just interacting with everything else that's energetic.
just, I love you, you creepy demon bastard. No.
That would be interesting to try next time. Let's like, hey, I'm gonna give you a kiss. Let's see if it likes it.
Come here, sugar. Yeah. Get you a wet one. Yeah, that might not work out. But then it might. Who knows?
Then it might. But shadow people are, honestly, from my perspective, real. I did have a client once who they hired me to come over their house and do a clearing, because they saw one. What they described to me was a shadow person, because it was bothering their kids, and because it's one of those things where, like, what they would call like a boogeyman, because they kept describing to me that the kids did not, like, refuse to sleep in their beds. They just kept thinking something was there. And when I do a clearing, I'll say, not necessarily that I always face something, but sometimes you can feel like the residual, the leftover stuff going on, and just like, yeah, like, it didn't, like, their bedroom didn't feel so great to me, so I did my job. But so like, all right, some other people encounter us and they don't quite know what it is, but let's see, the parents didn't see what was going on, but what they described is like, yeah, it sound like, to me it sounds like, because the kids, I ended up talking to one of the kids and they said that there was someone who, it was just a shadow and that they could see, but made them refuse to be in their bedroom. And
Makes sense.
so like it like, yeah, I told them I wouldn't want to be in my bedroom either if there was somebody there who didn't belong there and kept coming back.
Yeah, especially with the whole silhouette and red eyes thing. So
Yep.
a lot of the folks describe it as that. You'll just see the silhouette and either no eyes or red eyes, especially with the Hat Man. But I know Hat Man's also a creepy pasta, so sometimes I wonder where the story began and where the legend is and where the internet stuff started. But
Yeah, the internet does add or change things around. Well, yeah, but it's like passing a story down for age. It just happens a lot quicker because of the internet.
yeah, and with more misspellings.
Yes, with more misspellings. What about, let's see the Hat Man? It's like, are they like, is that something specific with them?
Well, I'm not sure if it's species of shadow person or if it's just one dude who's really, 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 really busy. But he's been apparently seen throughout the world in different places and described as in a variety of ways of haberdashery. Sometimes it's a fedora. Most of the time, it's like a fedora. Sometimes it's a cowboy hat. Sometimes it's yeah. If you Google image search it, you'll get a lot of different renditions. But
I wonder if that's just the person looking at them's interpretation of what's on
it
their head.
could be,
Now,
yeah.
well, now I'm kind of peeved because it's like, okay, someone's taking my image and making it shadowy.
Looks like you got to go. You got to go do your thing, man. Take your
I
take your
gotta go.
image
I gotta
down.
go defend the wearing the hat thing.
And yeah, and apparently it's just a lot of dread, a lot of just
Yeah.
paralyzing dread at the foot of your bed, standing in the door. It's always at night, like 3 a.m. That special spooky time.
If anybody does feel like they're in bed and they feel like somebody else is in the room with them, I do suggest, if you can, like the easiest thing to do, if you can calm yourself enough, is to just at least imagine yourself in white light. Just bring the light in or call everybody you can think of into the picture. If you want to call the archangels, call in the archangels. If you want to call in your guides, because they're here to help you out with anything and everything. If you call them in, I'll say they come right in and the situation should change. But it's also a bit about, now you also got to stop. I'll say, not saying ignore the situation going on, but I'll say try your best to calm down. Like, feel good that you've called them in. Like, now just trusting that you got to trust that something's going to change now because you called help in.
Because
Help them in.
focusing on it is giving them attention. So
Yes. I mean, honestly, if it's making you that nervous, how do you not pay attention to something like that? Which I understand completely, but it's just like, you got to give yourself that second of relief of that, just a second. That's all you need. Just a second, break that concentration onto something else, and it helps. It helps because your angels, your guides come right in. They'll help clean up the room, help shoo them away. But it's your part of it, because why? Like, sometimes they just can't do it completely because, as I said before, you're in command of your space, and if you're paying attention to somebody, you're allowing them to be there. So I just want to remind you all, like, this is your power over the situation. Like, if you stop paying attention to it, it can't exist with you. You have to, let's say, just break it for a moment and let everything step out. That's also then, like, if you can give yourself the second to surround you, to bring light in or call somebody in, you can also use your imagination maybe a moment later to start shooting at them with all the, I'll say, love energy you can think of.
well, talking about space, a little creepy story, and I could not for the love of me find the picture, but there is a picture and it exists. The next time it pops up on my Facebook, I'm gonna post it. Um,
Oh, you
but
see,
one
you have
time,
posted on Facebook before.
yeah, I did because I was in the office and I was doing Snapchat because that's what you do when you're on the ball. And I did this one where it gives you like a death metal uh corpse paint face, so it's like white and you have like the sharp black lines on your face. So like, oh, that's cool. And then another face popped up right behind me with the same corpse paint. And now I'm on the bowl and this thing is right here. where is it? What do you do? Why on earth would anybody alive or dead be right there while I'm dropping heat? It's he's in my space, man. And it just so happened that I caught and it stayed there long enough for me to take the picture, which I figured, okay, let me just go ahead and take a picture. And there it was. So I gotta find this thing. I don't know why I don't have it on my favorites, but I mean, talk about space, invasion of space. This dude, I could probably be sitting on this guy. So
That's yeah, that's a creepy invasion of space, because like again, you don't expect to be, terrified on the bowl.
yeah, and if he's there watching you poo, he's there watching you shower. Creep.
This would also be an opportunity, like how do you keep those things, how do you keep anything like that away? And mostly you guys, I'll say saging every so often really does make a difference, but also keeping the intention of, like, every so often I walk through my spaces and just in 2 seconds of my imagination I fill the room with light, and I do fill the room with love. And I said it takes 2 seconds in my imagination. Here I go, fill the room as much as I can, and then I go about my day. Like 2 seconds is really, to me, is not a lot. Like that's how long quickly it takes in my imagination to fill the room with love and fill the room with light. And I just do this consistently throughout my weeks, months, throughout the year. And if you're doing that, things a lot on a lower vibration don't like that, don't want to be around it. And I will say, if you live with other people, you don't have to tell them what you're doing. You can just do it. You like, if you live there, you are partial owner of this space, and if you fill it with love and light, I'll say no one has to know what you're doing. Just do it in your head, and I'll say more than likely you won't be disturbed by any lower vibrations, because they don't like to be around that. They really don't. Every so often we have a bad moment, or sometimes things want, like, catch us, pay attention to us, and want to come in. But I'll say, some instances, if you do this enough, they can't really cross the threshold. They can't come in because there's so much light in here. They'll say they can't exist in this energy that you've created. You've created so much love and light, they can't come in. So good tip for everybody. It's like, you don't have to walk around saging if you don't like sage. You don't need the crystals. They'll say it's your intention.
You could use a bell too, right? I've heard that you can
can
a bell.
You can. It's a similar, for any of you who've ever been in Catholic Church, they ring bells a couple of times throughout the ceremonies, because that's the intention. It's clearing out the energy. But it's the intention of what you're doing behind the ritual, what you're doing more so. If you're intending to clear something out, then that's what the bell is designed for. It's meant to clear it out, but that's why you're using it, is the intention of it. Because you can do the same thing with the drum.
Right.
Bell, a drum, a singing bowl. Because when I clean houses, I occasionally use a bell, but I mostly use a singing bowl, or I have a drum to with me that just I'll say musters up the energy in a good way. Oh, but I also wanted to tell a quick story, because I had to go to a house in Greenwich Village, Connecticut. No, Greenwich, Connecticut, not Greenwich Village, Greenwich, Connecticut. And this is an old farmhouse. And part of what I was supposed to do is I was supposed to clear out the house, which was an old house. Like, this area of Connecticut, it's a very old area, I understand. And I had no awareness of, like, the property when I got there. And walking onto the property, it's like you just step in, and like I'm stepping into like the 1800s as I like stepped onto the ground, like which is an interesting feeling to have. And the house was honestly fine. The owners told me, like, they were having issues. They were seeing things, and strange stuff was going on, but I didn't encounter anything until I got to the barn in the backyard. And walking to the barn, I'm just like, yeah, I feel like something's in there, because as I'm walking up, you just kind of feel like, I feel the charge going on, and it feels kind of creepy, and it feels like I'm ready for something. But but I was in, obviously into what I was doing. So it's like, here we go, walk into a barn, and for the longest time it was absolutely quiet in the barn, like nothing was happening. It's like I'm just going around saging and filling it with light, and dinging my singing bowl, and I'll say nothing for the most part. What happened was there was a bunch of things stacked up like by the door, and not what I was like mostly done, like maybe 2/3 done with what I was doing in there, and then it didn't like what I was doing, so it made all those things fall. And it wasn't in front of the door, it fell near the door, but the point was to get my attention. And then out of the corner of my eye, I saw something scoot from where those boxes and things were piled and scooted across to the other side. I'm just like, oh, I guess I'm gonna chase you. And
It didn't work for me.
this barn only had, it was one big room, but it had one back room, like for some reason that had an open door. And I'm just like, okay, it's in there now. And that spot was dark. And I'm just like, do I want to go into this thing? And I'm like, hell yeah, I want to go into this thing. So of course I go in like a dumbass, and I was in there, and all I felt was somebody put their hand on my shoulder, which is not a new experience for me. It's not, but
No, but it's never a pleasant one when you're
never,
in
yes,
in
it's
a
never a pleasant one. And
1800s
I'm just
barn
like,
in Connecticut.
no, and I'm just like, nope. Turned right around, like walked into the bigger area of the barn, and just like, and I said, you're not doing that to me. And I wish, like, someone needs to record. I need to bring a friend sometime, like, and record me while some of these things happen, because it's like the
I'll
things
go.
that, the immediate words that come out of my mouth are just like, because I'm talking to something that's not, that's no one else is gonna see, is right there. But that will creep me out.
I was just going to suggest that we team up.
That would be fun.
We go on the road and do a couple of house clearings, man.
Yes.
That'd be kind of cool. Any takers? Anybody go?
Unless anybody wants to help, you're more than welcome to. But so I mean, I obviously told it no, and it's like, you're not doing that to me, and continue to what I was doing. I mean, at that time, I tend to call in like reinforcements. I tend to call in Archangel Michael and his team, and it's like, we're getting this thing out. And it took a bit. It took a little bit to, I'll say, argue with it, because it didn't want to leave, obviously. But that was just like, no, you're not going near me, you're not touching everything again. I that's when I remembered to ground and shield, and I just kept expanding that shield to like fill the barn and fill the room. And I didn't hear anything after that, but I knew it didn't like it. It didn't like what I was doing. And I said, I'm here on behalf of the owner, therefore I can act as, telling it that you can't be in the space. That's why the owner has me there. But that was creepy. That was creepy, to be in the barn in the second room. And again, sometimes I just don't think. I'm just like, okay, here's the next space for me to walk into. And I'm just like, on my shoulder. I'm just like, nope, leaving the room.
That actually is a good point. There's something that you had said to me about residual energy and intent, where if you're working as a proxy for an owner of a place, and if they're not re-upping the energy or the intent, it, like anything else, will deteriorate, allowing the things to start seeping back in. So either they'd have to get you back in there, like almost as it like a chimney sweep, to periodically do like, okay, it's 8 months, I'm going to go do your clearing again. But otherwise they have to set the intent. They have to keep up the work.
Yes, they do.
You could
Actually,
clean it out, but they have to keep doing the work.
Yes, actually, let's see. We got a question, and
Oh yeah.
kind of it ties right into it. So someone is asking, if you tell them, person is asking us, if you tell spirit, if they're not here for the goodness or to protect the person in there, then they need to leave. Does that work? Yes, it does. Because
Where are you seeing that? I see somebody from Galaxy A51.
Oh, I can
see
see the previous ones. You may have to move the window up so you can see it. You can see more comments.
I did. Sorry, everybody. I see good evening, hello, great cup.
But let's see, Amanda, that does work. Let's see, you told your shadows this and they don't go away. I don't know if they go away completely. They have to go, the moment you say that, they have to go away completely. But if you feel like they come back, as one, what happens is, like, because you had the interaction, you might think about it a little later. That honestly allows them to like kind of creep back in, because you're worried about the situation that occurred, let's say, earlier in the day. Because then you're letting them, which is why I say you got to forget about it. I'll say, or at least if you're going to think about it, you can't have that fear behind it. It's like, oh, that happened, it was weird, but I'm cool because it's your space, you command it. They can't be there if you don't want them to be. It's not just wanting it, but it's like you got to take some charge with it. But the moment you say it, like, you can't be here, that's I'll say the first I'll say combat in the fight is, you can't be here. It pushes them back. They can't be here. And I'll say what happens is, now maybe they try to get your attention, or try to hold on to the fear that you've expressed even a little bit, and try to maybe give you a little more anxiety, so you feel a little more nervous, and then they stick around because of that. But you just need to stand your ground, stand in your power. But the moment you say, I recognize you're here, you can't be here, you got to leave, they have to.
If they don't, you call Joseph.
Yes, if they don't, then you can call me.
Because there are times where, you have to be like he said, you have to be very assertive, not to show fear. But I know as a
Which is not
person,
easy. I totally understand. It's not
and I
easy.
know as a multifaceted person where like there's a part of my brain that's like, okay, I'm just gonna hold on to that fear though. You're talking real good, sunshine. No fear. No, yeah, there's a little
if
bit of
you
fear.
if you can't help the fear right now, but then you can immediately, I'll say, if you can in your imagination bring in some light in your imagination, they don't like that. So bring it in, no matter who it is, good, bad, whatever. Bring in some light. It makes the situation better. What I would want you to pay attention to most is I want you to recognize your power over the situation. Is you don't, it's like having a bug in your house. You don't want them there, they gotta leave. The same thing. Try not to let the bug intimidate you so much, and I'll say you scoop them out, send them out, whatever. You just got to do it more in your head this time with spirits and energies.
We also have the Galaxy A51 message about trying to use our tools, and
Yeah, Galaxy A5, whoever you are, if you need a house clearing, you're welcome to contact me to do so.
if
Like
things get bad, I hope they don't get bad.
yeah, I hope they don't get bad. Like I hope it's not even bad now. I
What's been
mean,
going on?
every so often it's not a bad idea to do it. I do have clients who hire me annually just to do an annual clearing, especially before the holidays get here, because they just want all that good feeling energy before I guess they have visitors. But if you want to set something up, you're more than welcome to.
Are you safe? I think like bad things happening, or are you just spooky business? No, I'm asking Galaxy. Like, is it
I'm
just?
sorry, I'm laughing because the band posted who you gonna call Joseph Dyro Ghostbusters to with the
Oh,
Ghostbusters tune. Exactly. Huzzah. Yes, ghost busting. Uh, I would try Galaxy A5, A51. Try the tools first. Like if you feel like you're not getting a handle on it, and things still feel strange, then I'll say give me a call and see what we can do.
okay. Yeah, start small and see how it goes, because you could always get heavier as you need, but hopefully it's nothing big. As long as you feel safe.
Yep, and I mean I've dealt with some strange, and like as I've told people before, I've done this in Manhattan. And Manhattan can be scary with energy, and as I'll say, very little really creeps me out. So I'll say like I could probably handle a lot of stuff. I'm not to say I can't handle everything. I don't know, but
So far, so good.
yes, so far so good.
Yeah, and like I said with my stuff, like lately, again, a lot of shadow people. A lot of people are in my house. I don't know if everybody saw. Well, not everybody, because I'm not on Facebook with everyone, but we just got a new cat, and he's been hiding in the basement, and it's understandable. It's total cat behavior. But I have an Amazon Blink camera, and it's one of those like little mini ones that you can put up, and if something triggers it, it'll start recording. So I moved it so it's facing the basement door, and I thought maybe I'd see if he was poking up, because I want him to actually poke up and explore the house while we're all asleep. And I turned on the camera, went upstairs, brushed my teeth, and by the time I was about to get to bed, I heard doo doo, which is the alert that there's some motion. So I said, okay, good, the cat's up. So I opened the app, and it's nothing but orbs everywhere, just this way, that way. So if it were dust and there was an air current, they would go this way, maybe a swirl. But this is, I'm up here, here's one over here. Hello. And it's like at least a dozen orbs flying all over the place. So I'm kind of happy about that. It's kind of interesting. It's always good. We used to get videos of orbs when we used to live in Lindenhurst. There was a portal right up at the top of the stairs leading to the apartment, and you could just see it kind of like in the darkness undulating and swirling. And then I had a video on a potato phone, of course, because this is back in the early days of potato phones, and it's just orbs coming out of nothing, flying down the stairs, nice and graceful, just sailing on a sea. It was really, really interesting. But the point I was trying to make is that there's so much stuff going on that at this point I'm not even startled anymore, which is kind of sad because sometimes you want to get startled and you get that, especially this time of season, where you're like, "Ooh, dang!
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn off the light and I'm gonna run into bed." Hot damn! But it's also getting kind of tiresome when everything scares you. So you start to build up a tolerance and you start to build up a resentment, which is not a high vibration. But when you start to build up a resentment, you could start to build up that kind of tough skin and just say, you know what? Screw you. I'm gonna go have some Haagen-Dazs. You do whatever the hell you want. I don't give a damn. You're in my place. You want to start paying rent? Oh no, you're leaving now. Oh, now you're leaving. Okay. You know, so don't be afraid to stand up and just get a little angry at them. You know, be a little demanding. Like Joseph said, it's all about intent. So if your intent is okay, you're gonna be here, you're gonna start finding me money in random places. Cool? No? Bye-bye. Move down the street. My neighbor's a weirdo. He'll love you.
Uh, Galaxy A51, you said you just see noises until 2 nights ago you saw a shadow in your son's window when he wasn't home.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah, that's not a pleasant thing to experience. If you saw a shadow, say again, it doesn't hurt to, if you have sage or palo santo or mugwort or even just a crystal, put a crystal in the room and set an intent that like nothing is going to go on and bother anybody.
We
I
use
would try
black
that, see
tourmaline
how
in my
that works.
son's room.
Yeah, like I'll say it's one thing when it's happening to us, but when it's happening to our kids, I'll say it just makes things even more nervous. Hey Michelle, if you ever are in New York, and I happen to have a client, like I would love to take you on a field trip.
And it could be Lindenhurst. I know it, but again, the entire island is haunted. The whole place is like on. If you ever look up the ley lines of Long Island, it's all intersecting from Nassau all the way to the tippity tip of Montauk. It's all spooky. And again, we're like the last place in America that has a functioning state-run psychiatric center. So there's been a lot of negativity going throughout that place.
Yeah, but guys, we live in like if you happen to be on Long Island, you live in a happening place.
Well, it's happening all right.
Not to discount anywhere else, but I'll say it's just we just happen to live in an active area.
Yeah, everything from poltergeists to UFOs to demonic possessions to Montauk monsters, which who knows could have been just a freaking blown up raccoon. But who knows? I mean, there's Plum Island. There's or is it Plum or Block Island off the coast?
Plum Island is the laboratories.
Yeah, so you got that. So who knows what washed up from that? So yeah, you guys are living in a special spot.
There's a Lisa. She said she had the same thing in her house. There are tons of orbs flying around so fast. So orbs are, I'll say, not necessarily bad things. Sometimes orbs are just regular spirits, just walking around. Sometimes it's even family just hanging around, and you just happen to catch them with the camera lens and just floating about, because they are, I'll say, cameras and things can pick up on the energy signature, or if it's which even sometimes shows up as light. Sometimes if you're seeing a lot of it, sometimes your house for a moment, for a day, sometimes longer, sometimes permanently, in some sense, is you just happen to be living in a train station for spirit, and they're just walking through, and you're just catching all of them walking through. I said permanent. It doesn't have to be permanent. If you don't like it, we can
Could be residual.
Yes. It could be residual energy. Sometimes it's not always what we consider spirit. It's not necessarily somebody's passed on. It's just energy that's lingering, that just is trying to go somewhere, and maybe it itself is lost and needs a direction. It just needs to be directed.
Or I walked this way for 67 years, and now that he's passed, he's still doing it because that was the pattern.
I do have a client who every time I see them, their father keeps talking to me, but his father's always pacing, and they laugh when I say your father just doesn't stop pacing, and the family laughs because that's what he would do. And it's like, so he just paces from one side of the room to the other, like he's waiting for me to finish what I'm there doing. So he's just like, but that's this man's nervous tick, was he just had to go across the entire floor. So when I first described that to them, they all thought it was hilarious because they said that's what he would do. So sometimes you're just catching them in mid stride, just walking through the space. Let's see, lights going on and off. So it sounds like you have, you at least have spirits that want your attention. Oh, you are in Lindenhurst.
Yeah, we've got two people in Lindenhurst right now experiencing things.
So Like nothing bad about Lindenhurst. It just happens to be that way.
But that's my whole point with Long Island, is that no matter where you are, there's chances are there's something that happened there. And I don't mean nefarious, but I mean something that had created a residue.
I mean, if you don't, let's see, yes, Lisa, if you don't feel anything bad from it necessarily, that doesn't mean it's bad. Sometimes it just ends up being cluttered energy that just needs a direction or needs to be cleaned out, like, like the floor needs to be vacuumed. Too much energy gathering up in a spot is not great either, because it will affect other energies and the flow of the overall flow of the household, let's say. And if enough energy gathers in a spot and like collecting dust, it does, and I'll say if it's energy that needs to be charged up again, it does start to affect, I'll say, the mental feeling of everybody else in the house if they're sensitive to it. So that's also another reason why it's not a great idea to keep any energy just lingering for a while. Energy wants to move, it wants to go somewhere, it wants to do something, and if it's stuck in a corner, it needs help getting out of the corner, let's say.
Well, that lady who was tormenting my kid, and we banished her, but it turned out that she was just in the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
Then you banished her for good. So sometimes it takes steps, more than one thing. It's not like a light switch where you're like, okay, we're good, you're done, bye-bye. Sometimes it is, other times it's a little bit more than that.
And sometimes it needs a little more umph. And yes, Mary, this Long Island especially, there's a lot of Native American things that went on here, and they just, nothing really bad. It's just that they left behind, like they left a wonderful energy signature, and it's interacting with our energy signatures. Sometimes we just have a bad interaction. Sometimes it's a good sometimes it's just too much.
Well, I wouldn't say the history is always good. There's a lot of blood in the ground. So that there's a lot of bitterness, there's a lot of old anger, and we're on their land. So I can imagine people not being too pleased about that.
Let's see, with energy that, let's see, someone is asking, if you do a clearing and you send out white light and love and it just stops for only a few months, why would that be? Because let's say we're not quite dealing with, I guess, the source of the problem. Then perhaps there's like something there that's just still sending stuff out. Or maybe just so happens, as I said, maybe your location happens to be a train station and more spirits are walking in and then causing an issue, or more energy is cluttering up the space. This is also, I guess, a different conversation would be also what's going on with the people who actually live in the house right now. Like if there's if people are spitting out a lot of stuff, then that's energy that collects in locations, which allows similar vibrations to come in. Which this is how the topic gets very complicated. So it's also just, not to say like don't ever have an argument, but it's just like, just be mindful that energy needs to be cleared out every so often. So consistent saging would be good.
And if to break it down on a more human aspect too, is that we are all going to have bad days, and depression is a real big thing, especially when the colder months come. And it's not exactly like you shouldn't feel these things, but check yourself. Because the lower you feel and the more you stew and the more you brood and the more you accept that you're not good, you're not worth happiness, or nothing good ever happens to you, things are listening to that. Not only is that reinforcing that negative impression of yourself onto yourself, and I'm guilty of this, so believe me, I'm talking from experience, but these are things that you're kind of putting out there saying, this is my vibration, and you're gonna get back what you put out. And there's gonna be something that's saying, oh good, I like that vibration. They say you put out positivity, you get positivity. You put out negativity, that's what you get. And on paper, yes, it's cut and dry, but it's in practicality, it's not that easy. So if you can work on yourself and love yourself and feel like you are deserving of good things, and leaving all that crap that happened at work at the doorstep if possible. I'm so bad at that. I bring it everywhere. It's like dog crap on my shoes. I just can't get rid of it, but I'm working on it. I leave my shoes outside.
Interesting.
So, but my point is that you work on your own vibrations as well, because the houses, the land you walk on, all have a frequency, but so do you. So work on your frequencies. Put out what you want. Protect yourself. Because something is watching and something is waiting, and they're gonna match you. You're gonna get that good stuff. You're gonna get that bad stuff, but you're not alone.
No, you're not. And well said, Pete.
Thanks. It's from the heart.
I'm just curious, did you have any other stories you wanted to tell everybody?
Not really. The main thing concerning shadow people is that they've been abundant lately, and they've been very much not as flitting. Most of the times you see them, they're like, whoa, huh? But these are sticking around. These are standing still. Some of them are moving, some of them are running, some of them are going vertical, which is freaky because you're like, oh, okay, that, huh? But a lot of them have been peripheral standing on the landing of the stairwell. Like I said, in the spare room, just there, not supposed to be there. Goddamn, don't be there. Why are you there? Don't you have a hobby? Read a book. I've got 2 books. But anyway, but the point is that the only thing that I have is really like, yeah, exactly, staring back at you. Like, why are you staring at us? You creepo. What are you doing? What are these creatures? And you had mentioned something about them really being interactive physically, being able to harm you, which, yeah, I've gotten flipped. I've been slammed against things by, I don't know if they were shadow people because I didn't see that one, but I've heard, now this always freaks me out whenever I hear or stories or see videos of people looking down a hallway or a stairwell, and then suddenly you just hear something running at you. That happened. Oh crap! I got chills. That happened in my old Bayshore house. I
Don't
was on
freak
the phone
yourself
with my
out.
buddy Al. Al is a goddamn spook magnet. He's an absolute, he's his own. He's his own cornucopia of creep. But he and I were on the
We love
phone.
you, Al.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But he can tell you stories too. We should get him on this thing.
Oh,
And
we should. That's a good idea.
not a bad idea. It might be a little off the rails at one point, but anyway, he and I were on the phone, and my basement has always been bad. It's always been negative to me. And basements are scary. Lower energy. Where do ghosts usually hide? Basements, attics, where people are not usually, and where energy kind of moves. So they can sit and fester and feed. You know, so I was always afraid of my basement. And one time I was on the phone with him, home alone, of course. And in that house, you'd hear my name called, you'd hear all sorts of stuff. And, I hear breathing, just kind of like this raspy, and I got to go check that out. Hold on now. And I look down the hall, down the stairwell, and there's nothing. And then I hear thump, bump, 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 bump up the stairs. So I'm backing up, and then I get pushed into the cabinets, just shoved, bang, the phone falls. And by the way, this was before cell phone, so I had the phone on the cord. So I drop it, it clatters, it slangs, the coil brings it back, and he's screaming, "What's going on?" And I was like, "I just got attacked. I could feel it burning on my chest." And of course, my back hurt because I got slammed against the counter. So he invoked the name of Jesus, which isn't always my thing, but that worked for him. And I invoked whatever the heck was going on positivity wise. I was like, yes, that's great. And it went away for then.
Jesus is your friend, people. It doesn't have to be specifically your friend, Pete. You can call in anybody who can come in and assist.
Right. But I was working with what he was putting out there. So I was like, okay,
Yes.
we'll go with that. But that house, holy crow, that house was very, very much haunted as heck. I remember when my parents moved, I felt like a ghost there because I was still going to college, and I had to stay there for the closing. But all the furniture's gone, all the pictures are off the wall, and it was just me and a mattress. And I remember feeling like I was a ghost. I remember feeling like I was haunting that place. But I remember that the last day in that house, I was going to just lock up, leave the keys in the mailbox, and leave. They were going to come the next, later that day. So I decided to say goodbye to every room in that house, because every room had a memory. So my room, my brother's room, goodbye. I remember the time, blah, blah, blah. And my parents' room, like, I don't want to think about what went on there. The kitchen, blah, 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 this. And I remember just kind of peeking down into the basement going, yeah, take care. Bye-bye. But I remember just this feeling, walking room to room, that everything was staring at me. Almost like this procession of people just standing on the sides of the walls, just watching like these endless series of just
Creepy
phantoms as
feeling.
I'm walking through, feeling like a ghost myself. And I knew I was not alone. I was never alone in that house, even when no one was home. But yeah, so be careful what you're putting out there. You know, your house, your apartment, wherever you're at. You know, think about the Walmart in where is it in Farmingdale? How what much of an absolute I don't think it's there anymore, or maybe it is. But like whenever we would go there, we would feel sick, and it's such a low vibration place. And I don't know what they built it on, but you know, think about where you are. Always be present about your state of mind, because it's easy to get sucked into the negative energy or the chaos energy too. Especially during the holiday seasons. A lot of people, oh, it's a super Walmart now, even great. It's even bigger. Let's make the evil place bigger. But protect yourself again, like Wu-Tang said, protect yourself. You know, protect your neck.
I do have one more quick story, which doesn't take place on Long Island, interestingly. I went to visit years ago. I went to visit a friend. I was done with college, but they weren't. So I went to go visit them in New Jersey. And I'm not going to say the college because I don't want to give say anything bad. But I went to visit them, and we
You
happened
just
to
say it
walk.
was Jersey.
Yeah, but it was Jersey. I'll say that much. It was Jersey, so it wasn't Long Island. But we had to go through the art department, and this building, because it's a college, and you know, colleges building, there are always these large, like massive structures going on sometimes. And so we're walking through the art department, and there was a part where you can get to the staircase to get down to the basement. I didn't go there, but we walked into the certain area, and I heard a scream. Apparently I was the only one who heard the scream, and which was unusual. And I asked about it, and like no one else heard it. So moved on, and I heard it again, which are like, okay, somebody's screaming. Maybe, when you think to yourself, maybe this should be something like maybe there's someone really screaming down, like, somewhere. And my thought was, it sounds like it's probably in the basement, and nobody wanted to go down there. And this is also Saturday on a college campus, so it's not like school classes weren't in session. It was Saturday, but it's a college. People were walking around. So me being an idiot, let's say, it's like, let's go down there, and I coaxed one friend to come down with me, and we were walking, like we're just ascending the stairs, and I heard the scream again. It was more muffled this time, which was, I don't know what was going on with that, but they didn't hear it. So I'm like, okay, this is just me being the medium and the psychic, just getting in there, not. But I'm like, they wanted to leave, because I'm just like, well, I didn't want to go down into a basement of this building by myself per se, but I'm just like, all right, I've gone this far, I'm going to continue, because I also sometimes tend to be the devil's advocate, just like, let's just poke at it and like just see what this is about, because I'm hearing it.
I mean, also if there was somebody actually in need.
Well, I mean, which was the first thought, but I'm like, when I realized, no, like asking, no one else is hearing this kind of but me, which is not the first time it's happened. But walking, like ascending the stairs, it's like, my nervous meter just like started going through the roof, because like here I am going down into, I turned on the light. You can turn on the light because it's a functioning basement. And just going down here, which is also, this is back in the day when you could go into these places and like no one stopped you, which probably doesn't happen anymore, because this is also going back a few years. But I could definitely hear other spirits talking when I didn't even hit the floor of the basement yet. Like I could hear other people, and I kept, but the screaming was still there and muffled. And I started asking, like, what's going on? Why am I hearing this? And all I kept hearing is like, I don't, like I said, I'm down here. And I'm like, that's, hair like stood on the back of my neck. It's like, you're down here, like what are we doing? And my friend at this point had left, because she couldn't do it, she couldn't take it, because she's like, you're creeping me out, this is creeping me out, I don't want to be here. And I'm just like, so I stood like at the bottom of the stairs, like looking into, it wasn't dark, but it wasn't a well lit space, because one, it's Saturday and in the basement. And I'm asking the questions like, well, what do you mean you're down here? And she's like, I can't leave. It became a woman's voice more clearly in my mind. And apparently, I mean, she described that she like they left her down here, And so it was an opportunity for me to be like, okay, well, if you're left down here, why? Because if I'm talking to you in my head, then then your spirit. And she insisted that she wasn't. She's like, I'm not spirit. And she's like, I don't know what you mean. And it's like, you are spirit, because if I'm doing my thing like this, like, you're spirit. And I asked her, why are you screaming? And she said, I'm not screaming, which was,
I'm not screaming. You're
I'm not
screaming.
screaming like, boy, this is in my head, and like it's in like moments in time, like, quick moment. It's like, yes, I heard you screaming. She insisted it wasn't her, so I'm like, okay, there's possibly more than one energy, spirit down here. And at that point, I'm like, I don't want to be down here anymore either, because there's also that element of I could be in trouble because I'm down in the basement of a college that isn't mine.
Mm.
And if someone catches me, what do I like? What am I going to explain? How am I going to explain that I'm down here in the basement? So it's like, I probably need to leave. But she's just like, and she kept repeating, I'm stuck down here. And I said, well, you need to get unstuck. And she's like, and she just kept going, I'm stuck down here. And I mean, at that point, I'm like, okay, I need to call in like the light in the team to work this out, because I don't know what's going on. But as I was leaving, it felt like, have you ever had that feeling like the room starts to become wet and damp?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Is that feeling started coming over me, but I didn't see anything. But it's the feeling of wet and damp, all like, all around me. And I'm just standing at the foot of the steps. Like, I didn't go further into the basement. I'm just like, I feel the wet and the damp. It's like, I don't want to be here anymore. Something's not jiving with me, besides talking to the voice in my head. Sorry, I still laugh at that. It's like, yeah, I'm talking to the voice in my head.
Yeah.
But
Don't we all?
yes, don't we all? So I still, like, standing there for, I think, was probably only for a moment. It felt a lot longer, because then something else yelled, and it didn't sound human to me. And it just, because that's what you talking about, that in the basement, that's what brought up that in my head. Like, I remember that. It's like, it wasn't human, and it yelled back. And I'm just like, yep, I'm gonna hightail it out of here. But like, that dampness feeling, it's like something's down here that doesn't belong. And it's like, I would love to go back and like do some ghost busting with that thing, with whatever was going on.
Do you
I
remember
think
what building it was?
I think I do, because it was the art department building. So I'll have to invest. But it makes me want to kind of, I mean, I don't want to walk in now and be like,
But
hey,
no,
I'm gonna do a service.
send the dean an email and just say, hey, this is Mike, building inspector. This is who I am. I'd like to do a bit of a documentary on this thing, and you know, follow up, see if this person's still trapped down there. Because if that's the case, then you owe it to her to kind of help her get out of that wet, damp basement. Worth a
my
shot.
my feeling that somebody was murdered down there, and that's why they were like, kept saying like she's stuck down there. And in thinking about it now, it'd be nice to research that, because the people I was with, I explained it to them, and they know that I do this, so they just figured I was having a moment with, like, Joe's just having his moment with spirit. But it just, I don't remember if I researched that, but it'd be interesting to research. And again, because it's like, who do you ask? It's like, it's one of those things you have to go to the library and probably flip through the microfilm, and it's like,
Yeah, worth a shot.
I know, worth a shot, but somebody has to have a record. I mean, and again, it was a Saturday. Who do you speak to? It was weird. It was unusual. It wasn't the thing. I'm like, I'm gonna go walk up, as you said, walk up to someone who works there and say, hey, I had this encounter. What do you think? And it's like, you get away from us, kid.
Well, that's why you send him an email. This way.
Yeah. Well, now I can send it probably an interesting email. But your story about being in the basement, jumped back into it. I was like, I remember that encounter, because it was all me. It wasn't. I didn't actually see anything. It was all the feeling and the screaming in my head is what
In
caught
the audio.
Yes, because very often that becomes very clear in my head.
Yeah, I used to hear a lot. My name called a lot, and I remember being like, "What, Ma?" She's like, "What?" I'm like, "What? What? You said my name? No, it wasn't Dad. It was a female voice all the time."
I
But then
see.
when they weren't home, you knew dang well it wasn't them.
I mean, unfortunately, no one but me was hearing anything, so like it was solely me. It's like sometimes I'm like, I would love to have someone else witnessing this or experiencing it like next to me, and just seeing like, what do you feel? Do you feel anything? Because I was freaking the people I was with out, because they're just like, you're doing your medium thing, and it was like, and like, oh boy, I should call them and ask, like, do you remember when I did that, and like in front of you guys, and see if they remember it, because this was just when I was out of college, which was, when did I get out of college? It must have been 06 or 07, so a long time ago.
Yeah, you're old now.
Yes, I'm old.
But look into it, man. Look into it. Why
I should
not?
look. I can look into it, or maybe I don't. Maybe see if I want. If I ever want to go back. I don't know. I don't think you can go like. Yes, without written permission anymore. You can't do
No,
that.
I would definitely get permission if
Well, no,
possible.
no, mate. I'm just saying, like, I probably just can't even walk on the property. Like, you probably you need some consent to even just be there because that's not.
Probably check in with security or whatever.
This was, this was the early 2000s where security wasn't like the way it is right now. Oh, but just fun experiences, and just trying to be entertaining.
If anybody wants to give themselves a nice good spook during this Halloween season, if you have Snapchat or Facebook Messenger or whatever, just fire that bad boy up. Fire that bad boy up and just pan it around the room. And even if nothing happens, you're going to get that electrical tingle up your arms. You're going to get the hair raising experience of please don't have a random cowboy hat pop up. Please don't have a random cowboy hat pop up. It's fun. It's spooky fun. So,
Mary, your fiance lived on Nugent and Bayshore, and a lot's happening there, and it's sold. Well, I hope it doesn't continue becoming a problem for, I guess, the new owners, if there was anything really going on at all. Nugent, you lived on Udall. Oh, you lived on
yep.
Udall.
Yep.
You lived on Udall? I don't remember
Yep.
that. Anyone who's hanging on, like, anybody have questions they'd like to ask, any statements they'd like to make before we wrap this up?
And just make sure you do it to everyone so I could see it too, please.
Also, you should see. I mean, you should be able to see it. I made you a co-host.
Yeah, some of them were direct.
Okay. I mean, you guys don't have to. Like, I just want to give you an opportunity to, to ask a question or say anything if you wanted to say it.
You're welcome, Camille. Thank you for joining
Camille,
us.
thank you. Well, if no one else had any questions, just wanted to say thank you. You're welcome, Galaxy A51.
Yeah, appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I mean, well, everybody, our intention was, like, to be a little entertaining for you, just to give you some of our life experiences, because we've done this before. We had a wonderful response from when we did this in April, and since it was Halloween season, they're like, it's a great time to do it again. So
Absolutely.
so we'll probably do this again in the future. I can't think of when, but we'll do this again sometime.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everybody. I wish you the best. Thank you for showing up and, like, hearing to some of our stories and our banter. Wish you all the best, and remember to bring in the love and the light, and to hold that in your hearts and just send it out as much as you possibly can. Great time as always.
Take care of yourselves, okay? Take care of yourselves. You're the only ones you got.
All right, so I'm going to wrap this up, Pete, unless you have any closing statements.
No, just take care of yourselves. Do your thing.
All right, everybody. We thank you so very much. We hope to see you soon at some time. Okay. Have a good night. Enjoy the season.